Welcome to Mo's Market Pulse. I'm your host, Sara Mokaram, founder of Mo Digital Solutions, where we help businesses hit their revenue goals and thrive. On this podcast, we talk with industry leaders about their business, market trends, growth strategies, and what's ahead. On today's episode, we are joined by Gabriel Guerra, head of growth at Blacksmith. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So, since you joined Blacksmith, you've had a front row seat to how the company is building traction. So, I just want to start by grounding listeners in your journey. What drew you personally to join Blacksmith? What about the company's vision or opportunity that really convinced you to take on that growth role?
Yeah, I originally started my career as a software engineer, and I had worked in a few developer product startups. Like I always enjoyed the developer tool space in general, but I always felt that the go-to-market, particularly marketing, branding, anything like demand generation oriented, was quite weak relative to like other CPG brands or anything like outside of dev tool space. I kind of dipped my toe into it at a previous startup as DevRel, kind of like focusing a lot on their contact and event stuff. But I wanted an opportunity to kind of like test my thesis of like what would work for this space. And Blacksmith was willing to give me an opportunity to like have the reins to like really go all out. And so that's one of the biggest motivations I had for coming to SF and joining them.
It's great. And for those who might not be familiar with Blacksmith, can you just give us a little insight or kind of your pitch of what Blacksmith does?
Yeah, the tagline we always use is we're the fastest way to run your GitHub Actions. In general, the way we think about it is we're building a cloud platform that's like a hardware software stack, like purpose built for CI. So that gives us like optimizations that you wouldn't be able to get on the hyperscalers such as AWS and GCP.
Perfect. And so, from a growth perspective, what were the first big levers you pulled to get Blacksmith in front of the right developers and teams?
Yeah, I think like even to this day, the biggest two levers we have is content and in real life experiences. And then I'm not sure like if this is like a necessarily a lever, but like how we think about brand across. So just like how are we presenting ourselves? What's the language we use? How do we visually look? And so very early on when I first started, we immediately started going for a rebrand. And that took about 2 months of like discovering what we wanted. The thesis there was like everything in DevTooling looks kind of the same. It's always like this dark mode, very lighty, moody sort of vibe, and we just kind of wanted to go to the opposite, something like very vibrant, something light mode, something still techy, still retro-y that like fits the developer hacker vibe, but something that you would actually stop on your feed to like take a look at.
Well, I think you guys hit that because what you described is I can see your website in my mind right now. So, you guys did a great job.
So
So, looking back, what moment since joining has made you think, this company is really onto something big and you're glad you're there?
yeah, I mean, we posted recently our revenue has jumped since I joined from 1 million to 3 million in like 4 months. So obviously that level of growth has like made me feel very confident that we're headed in the right direction. We're definitely solving like a real pain point. I think most recently seeing like larger deals that normally you would think you would have to outbound or people think you need like a giant sales team to go after and have them like actually just like come inbound us is actually quite exciting. So I think just seeing the deals like mature and get like bigger is it's what
Well, congratulations. That's a huge jump there in 4 months. So that's very exciting. So you're out in the market, talking with different teams. So I'm sure you get a unique perspective on what engineers really care about right now. So what trends are you seeing in how teams evaluate and adopt CI solutions today compared to even maybe a year or two ago?
yeah, I think like the number one thing that comes up for developers usually that are anywhere between 21 and 35. I mean, I don't want to add an age, but like somewhere just on the younger age is always performance is like top of mind because that's the experience they feel. And I think especially with like the proliferation of like AI, like code gen tools, like there's just a lot more code being produced. And to a certain extent, like it doesn't matter if like an AI agent can write code 100x faster. Each code change still has to go through tests. And so if your tests like still take 30 minutes, like you're basically kind of stuck. Like you're limited on how fast you can move. And I think we've seen this especially when like Claude got integrated into GitHub Actions because Claude is one of those things that at least the way it's integrated where like it makes small changes, right? But every small change and then you give it some feedback, that's another commit and another commit and that's another build, another test run. And so like yeah, definitely we've seen a huge increase in performance. And from the other side, from like managers and people like slightly on the more senior side who are like are worried more about budget, every CI run costs more. Like we've met teams where every PR like run like literally costs them $100, and so like they're just thinking about how can we reduce the cost of this and still benefit from new tools and move faster.
So you might have just answered that in that question, but is there anything when you talk to prospects about what they're using or competitors? So what frustrations or gaps come up most often?
Yeah, it's always performance and cost. At least those are the two C's. I think the other one that's coming up more and more, and this is why we've started releasing like a suite of observability features, is like as you're coding more, as you're moving faster, there's just like a lot more like logs to look at, metrics to look at, a lot just more to debug. And a lot of the tools already kind of sucked for GitHub Action, but now you feel the pain even more. And so we're trying to give them like we recently released a login platform that lets you like get a glimpse of all your logs across your entire CI pipeline. So you can like easily see, okay, I'm seeing this failure. When is the first time I saw this failure, and who introduced that failure? Is it me? Was it someone else? And we have a few things that we're releasing in the coming weeks as well that we're excited for.
Great. And so you've been making sure Blacksmith's story reaches the right audience as the head of growth. So, what channels or strategies have been most effective so far in getting traction? I know that you mentioned content previously, but what other channels or strategies are you implementing that are working?
Yeah, I think like we've seen a lot of success with YouTube. I think a lot of dev tool companies are sleeping on YouTube. In particular, like partnering with influencers. Like I think about a brand a lot, and like when you partner with an influencer, you kind of are extending your brand, or they're sharing your brand with you, and there's like a level of trust that that builds that no amount of like blogs or social posts are going to like give you that. I do think like content like on socials has helped quite a bit, not as much with conversions actually. I think actually conversions, especially from LinkedIn to website, are not the best, but like it helps build quite a bit of mind share and it helps build like an audience that again it's not as trackable as like conversions, but like you kind of notice it. Like there are certain things that we see where like people will message us and be like, oh, like this was really cool, like when can I try this or stuff like that.
And it also, I'm sure, gives you just, when people are ready to buy, they've already seen your content and builds that trust as well. So,
Yeah.
developer products can be tough to market. What kind of messaging or framing have you found that really resonates with people, or also what has fallen really flat?
Yeah, I don't know if this is like the correct term, but the way I think about it is always trying to do like reverse marketing. Like I think no developers are a very particular niche audience where like they really don't like being sold to. Like they don't like being told like this is what this does. You should use it because of use case A Y X Y Z. What we found works quite well, especially for the Hacker News audience, is just talk about how we built it. Talk about like the trade-offs that we took at every step and why we took them. And obviously the problem space is the motivation that carries through the narrative, but I think that makes it feel less icky. Like it's basically something you want to read and you don't feel like you're reading an adverb.
And so, every growth leader and company faces hurdles. So, I want to kind of shift gears here to some of the challenges. What's been the biggest obstacle in convincing teams to switch from their existing setups to something new, even if it's faster or maybe even cost efficient?
Yeah, for lack of a better word, complacency. I think like people are sometimes happy or okay with like 30-minute CI times, or it's just not a top of mind in the roadmap like that quarter. I think trying to convince them or showing them like I think in this case customer stories that we worked on quite a bit have helped like seeing like oh like you have very similar problems like these are like the actual metrics that have changed and this is how it could help you. I think also like this is where I think a lot about brand because like in my opinion brand has two components. There's like the social proof which is like helps you um just like trust a company before you even try the product. But I think there's like another angle that's a little more emotional, which helps you like a product before you even try it. Like we have now quite a few perspectives that come and like seem to love us before they've even tried the product. And I think that helps quite a bit carry on through like all the dread of procurement and just keeps them motivated to like, implement. Like recently we were going head to head with a few competitors for a big contract, and honestly, from what I saw, like the biggest motivators, like the one champion we had, just like really liked us. They liked our vibe, they liked who we were, and like they were willing to fight for us. And then obviously on performance and other aspects, we were winning. In this particular one, we actually were a more expensive option. But I think because of the part aspects and because of like just the vibe that we were presenting, they ended up going with it.
Great. And on the internal side, what's been hardest about balancing growth momentum with the realities of being an early stage company?
I think just hiring. It's kind of hard to convince people to join you, even if you have success, to join like a seed company. It's just like we're 7 people right now, and we feel the limitations of that, and we're actively hiring quite a bit, and we actually have 2 hires coming in that I'm very excited for. But yeah, I think it's just hiring. Like we're growing fast, but like um, I'm only one person, and then our CEO is the only other person who's focused on go-to-market. The other 5 are engineers, and that focus on the product.
So, just kind of that bandwidth aspect of, convincing people to join a small team, would you say, that's rapidly growing?
Yeah, like sometimes I meet with people who work at a Series A startup. They're about like 30, and then they're like telling us, "Oh, what size are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, 7." And they like twitch a little bit. It's just hard for people to imagine like joining a 7-person company. It seems so tiny. But then when you speak about revenue and progress and the vision, it's good to get them excited. I mean, obviously, a nice office helps as well. But yeah, I think that's also lead into our decisions to like be very deliberate on like what we're going after. Like one clear example is like for in real life experiences, like most dev tool startups do what I would call like fun events, like hackathons, like meetups sort of style. We didn't want to really go into that direction, mainly because I feel like it's somewhat good for brand awareness, but I do think it attracts the wrong crowd. And we have primarily focused on like executive dinners and at like fancy Michelin star restaurants that like would interest like a VP or a director or a CTO or that type. We've done 2 so far, one in SF, one in New York, and we're doing one in the coming weeks. And that has been great for enterprise pipeline.
Well, you're definitely in the right city to find some great restaurants out there.
Yeah. I'll give a shout out to Slim Adam, which is quite affordable for the value you get.
So, if you could eliminate one recurring frustration in your role, something that might slow down adoption or movement, what would that be?
Slow down adoption. I think our onboarding could be even better and even faster. I think that influenced quite a bit. We already have like a great migration wizard, which makes it quite easy to migrate. And I think it's like one of the easiest migrations in the industry. But even then, there's like people who like still need a little push, still need a little motivation. So I think like if it was even easier, that would help a lot on the self-service side.
And as a head of growth, I'm sure you're looking at numbers every day. So, I want to take a look at the road ahead here over the next 12 months. What key metrics are you most focused on over this next year that you're really, monitoring every day?
We're very revenue focused. So at the end of the day, like I feel like the other metrics don't matter if revenue is not going up. So we do look a lot about revenue. We break it down quite a bit and to see like where channels are coming, the money is coming from, or like how concentrated the things are. I think what I'm primarily curious or focused on for the next 6 to 12 months is like, can we get our ACV a lot? Can we grow our ACV by a lot? Like basically, I want like larger deals coming in at a high volume.
How do you kind of go about or balance kind of, aggressive growth goals with also maintaining just kind of a friendly, kind of positive product experience, kind of with your onboarding, like you were just touching on, and still kind of maintaining that balance there?
Yeah, well, I think one from a brand perspective, I do think like being fun, being friendly, like that actually helps with the growth. I'm not sure if this is like where your question was going, but I'll just lead this way. I do think that there's quite a few people who think like as you move up, you have to become more enterprisey, and that means like you become like a little more boring, a little more stuffy. Maybe you focus less on your PLG and you just grow like a giant sales team. I think there's some truth to that, but I do think like, for example, someone who's like 37 years old who might be a director who's worked like 16 years in the industry, like they still like to have fun. They still like humor. They still like looking at something visually aesthetic. They still like some attitude. Like I think you can never be boring. Like I think like the worst thing you can do is like just not be noticed.
And when you picture where Blacksmith should be a year from now, what does success look like to you personally in your role?
That's kind of hard because like I feel like we'll look very different in a year. I think like what would be nice is if Blacksmith is seen as just like the de facto choice for GitHub Actions. Like if people think GitHub Actions, they think Blacksmith. Even potentially even more than GitHub itself.
And to wrap up, what advice would you give other growth leaders that are trying to build momentum?
I would say like ignore what other people are doing. I think like there's like a weird level of copying that happens in SF. Like people see things and they just like do the same things. I think like you see this a little bit with like launch videos and videos in general. No one is even trying to be slightly different with the medium. Like they all kind of do the same thing. And I just think that that's to a certain extent you're like riding a wave. So I get it, but when you don't do anything interesting or new with it, I just find it boring and I think it won't work long term. So I just think like try to be as different as possible. The grass is always greener on the other side, but try to ignore it and do something good.
That's great advice. And for those who want to learn more about Blacksmith or connect with you, where's the best place?
Blacksmith also SH. I'm also, I'm available on LinkedIn, Twitter. I respond to DMs. My Calendly is on LinkedIn. Happy to chat anytime. Yeah,
Perfect. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in to Mo's Market Pulse. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, like, leave us a comment, and join us again to hear more insights from leaders coming up on future episodes. And thank you, Gabriel, for joining us today.
awesome. Thank you for having me.